welcome back to another episode of the From the Farmyard podcast. And in today's episode, we have a little bit of a different style of content. We are bringing on a special guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Molly Sutton. I'm program manager for the nonprofit chickens.org, and I'm so excited to be here with you guys.
Let's go. This is going to be super fun. We're going to talk about a little about their organization that they have and all the things that they're doing. It's just going to be super fun. Hope y'all stick around. But let's get into the first couple questions. You want to ask the first one, Zach?
Yeah, I'll ask the first one. The first question is, well, we already asked who are you, but where are you located?
So I live in Phoenix, Arizona right now. Our nonprofit is based out of Arizona, but we work globally as part of the larger nonprofit CAPAX World. But chickens.org is mainly focused in the US. However, we have a couple projects in Africa going right now, which is kind of cool.
Oh, that's super neat. That's
Awesome.
really cool. And what is it like? Because you do what all do you raise in Arizona? Like, what kind of animals do you have?
I just have chickens, and dogs. but yeah, I've had chickens for 3 years now. I've had my own flock, so it's exciting.
And how do they do up there in Arizona? Because I know there's different, like, I don't know. I've never had like obviously I'm from Pennsylvania. I don't know like difference with how do your birds do up there in Arizona?
Yeah, so the summers are a little rough here. So I'm in Phoenix. We are complete desert, and it gets really warm. During the most of the year, it's pretty temperate. Like our winters, it doesn't really get cold enough to worry about them or anything. So they're fine, just insulating the coop and stuff. But during our heavy rain monsoon season in late August or late summer, they don't like the rain very much, but
yeah.
Right now, I'm just kidding. But during the summers here, we definitely have to take some precautions to keep them happy and healthy. The last couple of summers, we got hit really hard with a couple heat spells that lasted a couple weeks of like 115 plus degrees. So in that kind of situation, we know some people who ended up losing their flocks. A lot of people in the extreme temperatures like that end up bringing their flocks inside for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
We actually put an air conditioner on our chicken coop. They're very
wow.
But there's other ways to do it. Like hanging wet sheets outside helps encourage evaporative cooling, and that keeps them cooler. I found the best way to keep them cool is actually to take a couple of pallets and make like a little frame. And like I tested it last summer, and the temperature difference, it was about 15 degrees inside of the little A-frame compared to outside.
That's neat.
Yeah, and then you throw a wet sheet over it, and like it's fine. But if you're not around to pay attention to them during the summer, it can get pretty devastating.
Yeah, I bet. I definitely, if I were, living with temperatures like that, I'd have all my birds inside, or I'd take them all for like little swims in the pool. Well, maybe not that far.
Yeah, we made them a couple inner tubes for that.
Oh, I do remember seeing that. That was so neat. I did want to make one of those. I have one hen, my Buff Orpington. She would float perfectly. I just know she would.
Yeah, the Buffs hate it. I had a Barred Rock who I think she enjoyed it for like 5 minutes, and then that was it. But we filled kiddie pools with minnows. We'll freeze their food overnight so that when we bring it out in the morning, it's nice and cool, so it cools them down. Give them frozen ice treats throughout the day. So just like take a little cake mold or something and fill it with berries and spinach and other treats and freeze it. So that helps keep them cool. Basically, any ice, food, any water, any shade is what you need to do to survive.
Right. Any way to keep those birds of yours, at a decent temperature, keep them cool, keep them alive, obviously.
Yeah.
You go ahead, Zach.
Okay. Are you a first generation farmer, or is this something that's been in the family for a little while that you're just carrying on?
No, I am definitely a first-time farmer. I have farmers in my family history, but I grew up in inner city Phoenix, Arizona. I had never really been around chickens until I think high school. And actually, my story with chickens is I was babysitting my coach's kids over the summer, my junior year of high school, junior or senior year, and they got chickens. And I had never known anybody really that kept chickens. We had a couple friends growing up who had ducks and chickens and tortoises, but we weren't super close, so I wasn't around them a lot.
Right.
Mhm.
So this was completely new to me. And this girl, she and I are still friends. It's great. But I was so impressed because she was 12 years old. She decided she wanted to raise chickens. That her family came from Arkansas, and they lived around the country. But she wanted these chickens, so she got all these books, did all this research. We got some journals, and we turned it into a science project, which was fun because I went to college to be a biologist. So at that time, her dad was my science teacher. And
Right.
so we were really into that. We're like, let's do like a whole science project all summer
Hmm.
long. So the kids got, I think, 7 chickens, all different breeds. They had some Easter eggers, they had some barred rocks, they had some buffs and
Oh, that's
Rhode
always
Island,
fun.
right? Yeah, great breeds.
Yeah.
But it was all summer. we would they hatched, or they didn't hatch them, they got them from chicks. And so we had all these little chicks running around, and then they grew up into pullets. And then we were there when one of their hens laid her first egg. So it was cute because she found this bush. And so we were so excited. We knew it was going to happen. She'd been scouting out places for a couple days. And so, like that day, we were all just like eyes on her. We were watching her so closely. So she goes into her nest spot, and we go over, and the kids caught the egg. And
Oh
like
my
that
word.
right there was the coolest experience, And I'm like, okay, well now, like I guess I'm gonna be around chickens for a while.
Yeah.
It's just seeing how engaged the kids became with the chickens, um, watching how they could turn it into a science experiment, logging their eggs laying, um,
Yeah.
learning ways to keep them cool, learning about their diet. All this reading that this girl was doing, I think really helped spark an interest into what now became chickens.org, which is really cool.
Right.
So then, yeah, so I didn't have chickens. I begged my mom for a garden. I started one a couple times, but when I went to college, everything died because my mom's not great about watering plants. Um, yeah, but
Oh,
I never grew up with a garden. We never really had that experience. And so then I went to college, studied biology. I went to college in Washington State, which is much different from Phoenix, Arizona. Um, and things grow a lot better there because there's a lot more water.
right.
So my school actually had a urban farm. And so because of my experience with the chickens, I was like, yeah, I'll volunteer. I'll take care of the chickens. So I did that for a few years. It was like a rotation that we had where people would sign up. You take a morning or an evening shift, and then you just go lock the chickens up or let them out, collect the eggs. We got to keep the eggs, which was kind of cool as a
Yeah.
college, like, yeah, free
Yeah.
food.
Yeah.
So
That
I had a little bit more experience there, and I got to see how my school had set up these garden beds. And although I never grew anything in it, I was still exposed to it, but I still never got invested in it.
Right. Right.
And then my senior year, during COVID, actually, I ended up taking or I think, just kidding, it was right before COVID. I took a food class as a fun elective. I was a marine science major, and so I needed one of these special credits or whatever.
Right.
And this class sounded really interesting, and it was one of, I think, the most influential classes that I took in my whole college career, which was interesting, that it was so late.
Yeah.
This teacher, actually, she wrote one of my favorite books called Food Wise. Her name's Gigi Bernardi. And she talks about all these food systems and how conventional, now modern, like big conglomerate foods, like how it's actually healthy and how much
Mm-hmm.
healthier eating just food from your garden is, or like, and she has this whole philosophy about when you're shopping for food, like you can be sustainable within your shopping, like And so she uses the wise analogy, which is like whole, like, is it a whole food? Is it, I don't remember all the words, but she goes through this great thing, and it's in the book. But it just like changed the way that I thought about food. And then I started making more recipes from her book. And for this class, we would have like potlucks. And so I started using more whole foods and like learning to cook more, because I was never allowed in the kitchen when I was younger because it was too accident prone. And like, but now I live by myself, you know, or with roommates. So I had to start cooking.
Right.
And so it was just like all these experiences combined. And I really started getting into gardening, getting into raising chickens. So then, right after I graduated, it was during COVID, I came back home and I had a couple contract jobs for diving, but I figured I wanted to go back to grad school to study algae, which is very unrelated from what I'm doing right now. But my boss called. I actually was friends with her daughter growing up. And so she's like, hey, I know you're back in town. I have this project that I'm working on. I would really love your help while you're here. And I'm like, sure, like I'm not doing much else. Like, that's fine. And then it just kind of grew from there because I was the only person with experience raising chickens. And I just spent a lot of time reading, a lot of time connecting with people on Instagram. And now we have this whole project that we set up chicken coops. So it's been a wild ride, but no, until 3 years ago, I had not had much farming experience.
And that's so, awesome. Yeah, it's so neat because, you know, as someone who genuinely did not think I would have such a love for farming, looking back to see where it all started and then to see where you're at now, it's so interesting. So it's just so neat, you know, to see how far you come. I never would have thought that I would have had such a love for chickens, but, you know, here we are. Like, I've got a flock of like 19 birds. Like, it's crazy. Never would have thought. But that kind of takes us into our next question. Can you explain to us about your organization that you guys have?
Yeah, so we are part of the larger nonprofit CapEx World Inc. And the CapEx is a 501c3 organization, and they have a long history of providing local community-driven solutions to problems such as malnutrition, lack of access to fresh, healthy foods. And they address this by equipping communities with innovative agricultural practices. So since 2011, they've set up projects with crawfish farms in Cambodia. We now help the largest crawfish farm in Cambodia, which I will say, as a marine science student, right, I'm used to American crawfish. And so when I heard this about a nonprofit, I'm like, why are we using crawfish as a food source? Guys, these things are like lobster sized. They're and they grow really fast. Because I'm like, I've never seen crawfish that big before, but they farm them like lobsters over there, and it creates this really cool project. So we're actually working with them in using more aquaponics. They don't have chickens yet, but we've been taking their crawfish and integrating them into a aquaponic system so that their whole farm can grow food and use the crawfish. So
interesting.
Well, yeah.
That is so neat.
Yeah, it's been a cool project to be a part of. So because, and they have other projects with clean water, they've got other projects with other agricultural solutions, business solutions. So chickens became kind of a natural progression for us because they are a great way to combat malnutrition and poverty. Most of our projects until chickens.org had been out of the country. So we were really looking to have more of a local impact. And I think that when we started this project in 2020, we really had no clue about the impact that it would have.
Right.
Which has been really interesting. So we started chickens.org as creating an open source website for people with chicken raising information. And we're constantly adding to it. But we realized a need in our schools that children in inner cities, especially in lower income areas, have no clue about the farm to table pathway.
Right.
They're in Arizona, especially, I think we're ranked like 48th for education. Like our education system needs help. We have a lot of lower income schools who are just under service schools. They don't have the resources or the manpower really to teach these students the way that they need to be taught.
Mm-hmm.
So we started doing a lot of research, and we saw that the biggest impacts with keeping students in school, keeping them engaged, hitting those reading targets is community. And we're like, well, we do stuff with community.
Right.
And so we decided to use chickens, setting up chicken coops in schools to help engage students, as well as teach them proper nutrition and teach them about another living being, really, and make them change their attitudes towards healthy food.
Yeah.
Because studies have shown when kids grow food themselves, they tend to make those healthier choices because they've had some sort of interaction with that food, you know?
Yeah.
And so then I started talking to a bunch of schools around the country who currently raise chickens. And I started noticing something really fascinating. When we started this project, we thought that we would be helping schools teach their STEM curriculums, so science, math, engineering, technology. And we found a lot of schools ended up raising chickens and seeing the most benefit in socio-emotional learning. So like how students interact with one another, their mental health became better. Students who, especially with special needs, who didn't have any sort of motivation to go to class in the morning. I mean, we've had stories from a couple of our schools where their kids like wouldn't even get out of the car to go in the door until they hatched chicks, and then all of a sudden it was like they were a completely different student and they were so excited to go in and learn. And so a lot of our schools that have been reaching out to us now, we currently have 5 projects going, and we have a wait list of over 16 schools at the moment. And every single one of them has wanted to raise chickens for the emotional benefits and the mental health benefits they bring. Exactly. So I'm like, I've got a STEM background, you know, so I'm like thinking all sciencey, and all of our curriculum is geared towards science, which is great. And a lot of schools are integrating that into their curriculums already, which is fantastic, because chickens do help teach people about science in a hands-on way. But we've been finding a lot more of them is for the mental health. So we created a grant that can help some of these lower income schools to set up and fund their own chicken coops, gardens, and compost bins. So that's what we do now is schools will reach out to us. We'll fund them where we can. Currently, we're not taking on any new funding roles, but we're happy to help consult and provide free resources to these schools. So we have a couple of projects there as well. So that's what we do now.
That is so neat. And I know like with us, we're both homeschooled. So we get the availability to go out to our backyard and, you know, grow our own foods and raise our own chickens. And, you know, having that ability to do that, it definitely has taught me, you know, a lot of skills that I, like I said, didn't think I'd know how to do, but it's definitely helped me. Also, like you said, like mentally, like I love my birds. They help me like get through every day. Like if I didn't have my birds, I'm telling you, like they just bring me so much happiness. It's so neat what y'all are doing, and just it's just so cool.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. It's been really fun.
And you have a couple like things. I know we had them written down, like things you're doing. I don't know if you fully like touched on that. Do you want to talk about what you're like, what was it, Coops and Gardens? You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so with the Coops and Gardens grant, that's you're right, that's part of what we do. So our whole Coops and Gardens initiative, basically chickens.org, we have our open source website. We do school visits with chickens, and if a school doesn't want to raise chickens, I'll bring a chicken in. We can do different lesson plans like life cycle of an egg. We've got some hands-on activities, and it's a lot of fun when we do that. But also with the Coops and Gardens initiative, We take a comprehensive approach to improving food security and reducing barriers to education through setting up chicken coops, gardens, and compost bins. And we like to do the three of those together because it's much more sustainable. Sorry, my dog's knocking at the door. It's a much more sustainable approach to raising chickens, because if you just raise chickens alone, you have a bunch of waste to deal with. If you just compost alone, like you're not getting the most out of those food scraps before you compost them, if you can feed some to the chickens or whatever. And then if you're not gardening, then you're not able to use that compost and all the nitrogen rich soil that you're creating, or nitrogen rich organic matter that you're creating to put into that garden. So we try to encourage all of our schools to do all three, especially because it's not, once you have one, it's not much more effort to add the other two, So because of that, we utilize a community-based hands-on learning experience for the children to increase their knowledge of food, to empower their healthy lifestyles, and then to prepare them for future opportunities. And another way that with our coops and gardens that we do those things is we encourage community mentorships. So schools will partner with local businesses and local farms, and the farmers and business people, business owners, whatever, I don't know how to say that, will come in and mentor the kids. And then we also are, once we have a few more programs up and going, so right now we're in our pilot stage since we're still so new, we'll have a pen pal program across all of our coops and gardens programs, so that the kids can all connect with one another from different parts of the state or different parts of the country, as well as different parts of the world, which is really unique to a lot of other programs.
That's awesome. And I think that is important, seeing how different people are gardening or raising chickens in different climates, where Arizona and Pennsylvania are completely different, but across the world, it's way different as well. And people raising crawfish and things like that. It's amazing. It's awesome.
Exactly. And it encourages critical thinking too. When you're able to communicate those differences between other people, it encourages sympathy and understanding, as well as encourages more natural learning.
Absolutely.
So with chickens.org, where do you think you see this organization like going in the future?
Yeah, so as I said, right now we're in our pilot stage with our Coops and Gardens program. So we have 5 schools at the moment that are actively building chicken coops, or 5 community groups, not all of them are schools. But once we have these pilot programs up and we do a little bit more research and refining with them, we hope that this program will become replicable in other states. So we're just refining it right now.
Right.
But we're also looking in the next year, we've applied for a few large grants so that we can develop our own curriculum to go along with our programs, so that schools can either integrate that into their current studies and their current curriculums, or create an entire after school program for the chicken raising.
Yeah.
So we just hope that any school that wants chickens, which we're finding a lot of them do, especially I think after this past year that we've had, and seeing how our food sources can be regulated or not regulated, I think a lot of people are definitely leaning towards taking more control over where their food comes from.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
And if we can teach our kids how to raise their own food in their schooling, just through a natural progression with their already great studies, I think that that's going to be invaluable to our country as well as to individuals.
I love that. And it is true. Go ahead, Zach.
With all of this, I've had people reach out to me who've never really taken an interest in gardening or chicken keeping, and they're wanting to buy eggs or wanting to get produce once the garden actually starts this summer. And it's so fun teaching them, but also the joy that they see in seeing the multicolored eggs that you can't get at the store, or the garden produce that you can't get at the store because it's just unique and it's not profitable to raise on a larger scale.
Right. And definitely, like you said, I think more people it's very eye-opening the past couple of years that we've had. And I think a lot of people are wanting to start raising their own food, like you said, taking control. And it's definitely, it's just so neat because that's why we do a podcast. That's why we started a podcast, because there are so many new gardeners, new farmers who want to grow and who want to learn. And we just want to be here as a community and teach others about, farming, agriculture, things from the farmyard. But yeah.
That's so fantastic. And seriously, I think one of the biggest helps has been the Instagram and social media community.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's so many people out there who are doing these things or learning to figure it out themselves, who are so willing to help others. And I feel like all the gardeners and chicken keepers I meet are just happy people, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, soil literally fights depression. So
yeah.
Yes.
I think
For
everyone should garden.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's how I started. I started I went out and I was doing some work on a farm and they had chickens and I was like, I really want chickens. The next year I got them and then I started gardening because it is chickens and gardening go hand in hand together with compost and everything else. And it's just amazing seeing everything. But a lot of people start on their own like I did or getting very little exposure. And then when they actually get them, they're totally willing to help other people if somebody would ask. And a lot of times chicken keepers and gardeners are waiting for somebody to ask them to help or ask for their help. And they will gladly
any excuse to talk about gardening, farming, chickens, we're here for it.
Exactly. Well, and keeping chickens is interesting too, because there's not a lot of avian vets out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hoping that with the big boom in keeping backyard chickens, we might start to see more.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is trial and error, and a lot of it is community based. Hey, my chicken's got these symptoms. What should I do? Have you had experience with this?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I get that all the time from our Instagram community.
Mm-hmm.
Even like my chickens had a respiratory infection, and to treat respiratory infections, typically you use Tylosin, and it's not readily available. You can't just go buy it somewhere. You have to order it online. And like the chicken community pulled through on that one for me. I mean, I posted about it on Instagram because I had one chicken that she just took a decline really quickly over a day. And I had ordered this stuff and it took a week to get here from who I ordered it through online. I was not happy about it. There was a mix up. But like literally my chicken was going to die if I didn't get her some kind of medicine. You know? So I posted about it on Instagram and I had a couple friends just like, they're like talking to each other. Oh, I've got this. Go pick it up here and we'll just like figure it out after. Yeah. So, I mean, it was a little bit late, but the rest of the flock was okay. Yeah. It's one of those crazy things where it's like, it's such a prime example of community groups just coming together.
That's why I love Instagram. It's what kind of got me started, just seeing the community. I know you personally, you helped me so much through 2022, man. I was struggling with so many different varieties of sickness, and just asking that community, asking all the different chicken owners their thoughts, like, hey, what's up with my chicken? Now I've learned so much just by educating myself and learning from those experiences, those trial and error moments. And now, I call myself a backyard chicken vet because I just know, I know the basics. I'm not saying I know how to do surgery on a chicken. I'm not that good. I don't think I could do that far, but just understanding the basic knowledge of, sicknesses with your birds and having that stuff on hand. It's so cool that I can just, go to that community and just ask them. They're just always ready to help, always gung-ho about, supporting other backyard chicken keepers. And it's the same with gardening. There's always somebody who knows something and wants to help you learn and educate and grow your knowledge yourself. So, yeah.
Exactly. Well, especially in our case, I feel like we both got hit so hard last year.
We did.
Chicken diseases or whatever. And just being able to talk it through with someone else is like, okay, you're not a bad chicken mama. It's okay. This happens. You couldn't have prevented it. Let's just deal with it.
Yeah.
Invaluable.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely helped me through that, having people to talk through. And like you said, knowing that, oh man, I'm not a bad chicken mom for doing this. Like, as I felt terrible, man. I was like, why are all my birds dying? Like, what did I do?
Yeah, that was unfortunate, but I feel like we learned so much from
We did
last year.
Yeah. And it's super cool. So y'all are definitely a valuable resource. If y'all need help with chicken keeping, like, these are the people to go to. They know stuff.
Thank you. It's also, we have fun stuff too. I mean, we had,
Exactly.
I don't know if we're on for it. We had a Chicken's Got Talent competition a couple years ago.
I do remember this.
Yeah, it's an online chicken show, and it went really well. But we ended up having to postpone last year's, and I think we'll end up having to postpone this year's again, just so we can focus on putting up our Coops and Gardens program. But we're hoping that maybe in the fall, once things calm down a little bit, we'll be able to make a new appearance with Chicken's Got Talent. So keep watching for that.
That was definitely fun to watch. I loved sitting back and watching all the different auditions. It was so neat because, like I said, you're seeing all, like, I'm not the only crazy chicken person. Like, I see all these other people and they're doing tricks with their birds. It's so neat. It's so neat. It is community. It is. It's
And it's a great way to raise awareness of how intelligent chickens are too. I mean, I at least, without any experience with chickens, I always heard, oh, they're such a dumb bird, like they've got a size brain. And then, like, they are so intelligent. I mean, our winner did a card trick. Like,
I remember that one. It was so neat. Yeah. That's one thing. Yeah, that's what I was always told. Like, chickens are not smart, and I see what my birds are doing. I'm like, what do you mean? These birds are like smarter than me. Like, they're doing stuff that I mean, as a chicken, like, I wouldn't think to do stuff like that. It's so neat,
Yeah, and they have their own culture. I mean, they've got their social hierarchy. They've got just all this intelligence. It's really interesting to watch them.
Yeah,
for sure. And I'm wanting to get into like not the nitty gritty, but it's like the hierarchy and everything. And I'll look at, like, I have multiple cats, too many, but I'll look at how they all interact with each other, and it's just amazing to see. And then same thing with chickens, watching them all interact, and it is for sure a pecking order. And it's just, I like watching animal dynamics a lot.
And it's interesting how it changes too, like with the death of a flock member or the introduction of another member. I mean, we've had, overall in the last 3 years, we've had 3 roosters. One of them we hatched, and then one of them we bought when it was still young, so we didn't know. And then we ended up rehoming those 2. But we rescued one from a friend who I have now, my Winston, and we decided to keep him because he's just like the sweetest guy ever. And it's fascinating to see a flock of just hens, and then how it changes when a rooster's
with that dominance. It does change.
We had a hen, we had only hens. We had a hen that who was our top hen, who started crowing. And so, like, I guess when chickens are when hens are by themselves with no rooster, typically the top 2 hens will take over certain rooster roles, like watch for predators, they help find food, and sometimes they will even start crowing. And in extreme cases, I don't know if you knew this, a hen, if her testosterone level gets too high, because chickens have 2 ovaries, they've got a left and right ovary. Their right ovary is how they lay their eggs. Her left ovary will turn into a testy, and she will become a male biologically.
It's so weird.
Becomes a rooster, which is so random because I only heard of frogs and like certain amphibians doing that. Like, but chickens do it too.
It's so interesting.
That is really interesting. We had one of our hens. She had just hatched out kids, and we started moving around the coops and the runs and everything. And I guess she didn't like it, and she started crowing. She did it for like a week, and then after that she was done. But I was like, that's so interesting to see. And then I was like, it's because we started moving things around on her when she was already in a stressful situation. It was just crazy to watch.
There's so much with chickens that you can learn. It's insane. There's so many things. It's such a wide, topic. There's so many things to always learn. And it's super cool that you're taking this to schools. I know there's a lot of kids, I'm lucky to have this lifestyle, while I'm young, to learn these things. Super lucky. And I know there's kids who don't have that chance and they don't even know it's a possibility. I didn't fully know it was a possibility. But it's super neat that y'all are bringing this to schools, and educating the next generation, because we do need more farmers. The next generation, I think we've lost a lot of interest in that area. And I just, with this, I hope that it can, teach the next generation, raise them up and show them that, hey, farming is a thing and it's important to, our country, to the world. It's an important job. And I hope that this will, raise up some more little farmers.
Thank you.
But I think we covered pretty much everything. We're coming down to the last couple minutes of this session here. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I mean, I don't think I have anything else to share today, unless you guys have a couple other things you wanted to talk about.
I think that's everything for today's episode. More episodes coming soon with Molly. We're super pumped to be collaborating with her and chickens.org and, doing this, sharing their little organization, the organization that they have. It's super neat, super cool. Happy to have you here on the podcast. Can't wait to do more episodes.
Great. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for having me. I look forward to doing more educational topics with y'all.
For sure.
It has been an amazing episode, and I'm sure multiple people are going to take advantage or try to use this as a valuable resource. And I really hope they do.
Yeah.
Because what you guys are doing is amazing.
Thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
So stay tuned, y'all. More episodes coming soon. But for now, thanks for joining us, and we will see you all in the next episode.
Bye, y'all.